All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Jean Barisi, and I am an early childhood specialist with CREC. It is my pleasure to welcome you to our Roundtable for Special Ed and Related Services. The Roundtable is sponsored by the Connecticut State Department of Education in collaboration with the RESC Alliance and CAS to facilitate professional learning opportunities related to special ed and related services in today's context. Today's session is Thinking Ahead, 2021 to 2022 school year. Together, we are very excited to support the needs of all of Connecticut's youngest learners, including children with special needs and other vulnerable populations, by sharing with you the most current information, as well as research and best practices for early childhood education. There is so much to think about as we design and implement teaching and learning for our youngest students across the state, so we are glad you are here. Just a couple of quick reminders. Everyone has been muted to begin with, but once you get into the breakout rooms, please feel free to unmute yourself to talk with each other. If possible, please keep your camera on, as it is nice to be able to see everyone, especially when we're working in small groups. When we are working as a whole group, please ask questions in the chat or raise your hand with the button at the bottom of the screen to be recognized. Also, please use the chat feature to ask questions, share ideas, and let us know if you experience technical problems during the Zoom meeting, and we will be monitoring the chat. However, when you are in the breakout rooms, the chat feature is only seen by the people in your breakout room. If you have questions or need help when you are in your breakout room, please use the Ask for Help button at the bottom of the screen, and one of the hosts will respond. This meeting is being recorded, but only during the whole group activities. We are unable to record the small group conversations during the breakout portion of the meeting. However, the rest of the session will be recorded and will be posted for future viewing on the CAS, OEC, CSDE, and RESC website. So please be sure to share the link to this session with your colleagues once it's posted. Again, I would like to welcome and thank you all for joining us today. It is now my pleasure to introduce our presenter for today, Judy Porto, and I think we are ready to begin.
Okay, thank you very much, Jean. And I want to welcome you today. We are going to begin first by reflecting on where we've been. So we have been meeting for about 10 months and having these roundtable discussions with principals, administrators, and also with teachers and related services staff. So as we think about what's been going on in the last 10 months with our conversations, our focus has really continued to be on high quality early childhood learning environments for all children, including children with special needs. But we've been heavily influenced by the results and the impacts of COVID. So our focus has really been influenced and our awareness heightened around our sensitivities to family and community engagement, sound responsive relationships, social emotional wellness, and of course, educational inequalities. So as we continue our conversation today and thinking ahead, I want us to keep in mind that we've all been affected by the pandemic, and not only by the pandemic, but other traumatic events that have occurred, including the death of George Floyd, political division, and mass shootings. So these are really significant events that have affected us and everyone that we work with. So I'd like to move to the next slide. And this pretty much captures where we are and how a lot of us are feeling. The quote is by Damien Barr, and it states that we are not all in the same boat, but we are all in the same storm. So just as schools are different with the experiences of COVID and their responses to it. We have some schools that have been in session for a long time, some schools that are starting back in person this week or have been for a while. We've got hybrid, all sorts of configurations. But it's really important to remember that no one's experience has been the same and everyone has been affected in some way. Jean, did you have an opportunity to put the poll in? Okay, so in a few minutes, we're going to bring up a poll. And I'd like you to just take a moment to reflect on your experiences over this past year. And you can reflect either professionally or personally. And please respond to the poll by indicating you've been affected in a minor way or 5 in a significant way. So Jean, if you could just bring that poll up for us. Okay, and everybody take a moment to respond. And do you see the poll being responded to? And are we able to share the results?
Yes, I can share the results.
Okay.
We have about 19 people that have responded so far.
Okay. Okay. So what are we seeing? Okay, so many people are right in the middle, but as I said, everyone has been impacted. The other part of this quote is that some people are in super yachts and some people have one oar. So again, it's very varied in our reactions and responses to the current conditions that are going on. Elena Aguilara is she's a national educator, she's a coach, she is a author, and she recently stated that resiliency is how we weather the storms in our lives. It is really how we bounce back after adversity, and it's about our ability to thrive. So according to Aguilar, building our own self-awareness as educators is really foundational to building resiliency and self-compassion for our schools and our school communities. So today, as we engage in our conversations and tackle these challenges and responsibilities, it's also important for us to recognize that this is an opportunity for us to adapt and even transform our school communities so they can be stronger than before. As I was considering today's agenda, we are going to have 2 opportunities to have breakout rooms and to have hopefully some rich discussions with you, and you will have an opportunity to share and to ask questions and talk about some of the strategies that you're using. It's really critical that when we approach this work, we think about the whole child, and we also think about the child within the context of our multi-tiered system of supports. So we're going to talk about ideas and strategies to address trauma and support social emotional learning, looking at children's learning, academics, academic loss. As I looked around the nation, most of the focus on people thinking ahead and schools preparing for this coming year is really adjustments. It's a lot about adjustment. It's beginning and stopping and transitioning. It's about academic status and loss. It's about health and safety. So those were the themes, and that's what we'll base our conversations around today. So as we look at the whole child, it's important to remember our multi-tiered system of supports and how are we going to support social, emotional, and academic learning and all of that at the same time. And as administrators, you also have the responsibility of supporting your teachers and other program staff. So really considering what are the stories of the students that are coming into your building, coming back into school, and what are the stories of your teachers and what kind of supports will you have in place or do you currently have in place to support everyone? And we know that this all begins by building relationships and trust with the community and strong collaborations. So keep that in mind, that we really want to present to the community that our schools are really prepared for their students. We're prepared for our teachers. We're ready. We're excited to have them back. We already have some of them back in some form. So as we move forward with this, I really would like us to consider as many opportunities as possible to really push our thinking. So last time we met, these were some of the responses to anticipated challenges. So just take a moment to look at this. Today will be an opportunity to maybe talk a little bit more deeply about some of these strategies that you identified last month. And it may be an opportunity for us to really think outside of the box and consider what else we can be doing to really ensure that everyone is prepared. So I do want you to spend a considerable amount of time in your breakout rooms to have these conversations and discussions. So our first breakout room will be focusing on social emotional learning and considering trauma and how that affects children's learning, how are children and adults able to do learning when they have been affected by trauma, and how do we address that? So for today's purposes, we are going to have 2 breakout sessions, and hopefully for about 20 minutes each. When you get into your breakout rooms, please assign someone to facilitate the conversation and someone to take notes and be prepared to share back with us, so we can have a large group discussion around these ideas and strategies. And again, it's your opportunity to talk with one another and to learn from everyone that is involved in the same kind of work. So Jean, if we could split into maybe 5 or so in each group, 5 to 6. And when we come back into the large group, please be prepared to share some of your ideas and suggestions. We'll just take a few moments to get those rooms ready.
Judy, you're muted.
There we go. So large discussions and really important ones, especially trying to think about it and focus it and the opportunities that are going to be available to us, hopefully with additional funding and so all sorts of creative ideas. So I'm going to type into this document your suggestions. So if one person from each of the breakout rooms would like to just share some of your discussion items with us, and I will type them as best I can as I'm listening to you.
We can go first. We were breakout room 4. We had some really good discussions. Just to clarify, you want us to discuss what we're currently working on, or what we would possibly recommend or hope for next school year?
Why don't we do the hope fors?
Okay, so some of the moving forward thoughts that we have were, I think the best one was sort of Jacqueline from Enfield discussed this, just sort of shifting our language from trauma to resiliency boosting. And that for parents was really powerful in her experience. And then additionally, reducing some staff initiatives would help, you know, our teachers and staff focus their energies more and target their energy resources, and possibly hiring some high quality coaching staff or work with staff in our buildings. Did I miss anything? Group 4.
I think also we all touched about just also having access to like an SEL kind of curriculum. I know some of us were talking about using Second Step, but making sure that there's, you know, something available, resources, you know, to support, you know, teachers and related staff, and implementing some of these ideas.
Other ideas?
I can share for our group, but certainly I don't remember our group number, but who was in our group, feel free to add or adjust if I missed something. I think that certainly one of the strategies that was talked about was the use of support and resource people's social workers, school psychologists, and really utilizing their supports and services now as more districts are bringing kids back for the remainder of this year, and really again, supporting teachers and supporting students using those support people. Somebody talked about, well, one of our themes kind of was around children, students who haven't been present, who may have sort of fallen off the map in the last year and year plus. And so a lot of outreach efforts, doing some home visits. I think, thinking about places in the community where you could potentially connect with families. They may not be connected to school, but looking for places in the community where you could they could do some outreach. Summer program was another one of our themes, using ESSER funds to develop summer programming and having that apply to students who do not have IEPs, as well as students who do have IEPs. Let's see, one district is doing tutoring, using ESSER funds also for tutoring hours after school. Acknowledging that you can use ESSER funds for transportation as well, which I think, again, if we're thinking about, one of the barriers or roadblocks to getting families re-engaged or possibly engaging them in summer program, the fact that you could provide transportation is a big one. One of the suggestions for people who may not have started thinking about summer yet was to survey staff. I think everyone has questions about, will we have staff who will work over the summer? So starting with a survey out to staff. One of the districts also is exploring having staff only work for maybe 2 of the 6-week summer program or 3 of the 6-week summer program. So staff might not be interested in committing to the full 6 weeks, but they might be interested in a couple of weeks, and that might help with the staff shortage. Thinking about using college students or people outside who do not have a teaching certificate and using them under the role of tutor or proctor. So again, addressing the staff issue in that way. And then our last piece of conversation was thinking again about SRBI, and now that students are starting to come back into the building, really looking at data that you're collecting right now during this time period to be able to, I think it was Kristen, she said, to get out in front of it, to really look at what do we anticipate our needs are going to be based on what we can learn right now in these last couple of months of school, so that we can use that information to inform planning. And thinking about how you might need to redesign SRBI so there isn't that huge August 27th, then there's 50 referrals. And then using, using resource supports to meet needs. Was there anything that I missed?
Nope, that was quite a bit. I can't spell flexible. I'll fix it later. Was there one more group that met? Did we have 3 breakout rooms? Okay. All right, so we're going to continue with this conversation. I'm going to go to the next slide. And I know that in our conversations, we did touch upon all of this, the academics. And when I talked about addressing the needs of the whole child, sometimes I feel uncomfortable when we pull it apart and we look at academics and then we look at social emotional. But remember that that child is integrated all together, and we need to be focusing on that. So I think our next breakout room, we're probably only going to have about 15 minutes. But if we could just expand a little bit on some of the ideas and suggestions that were shared and continue our conversation. So Jean, would you put us back into groups, please? Okay. All right. So we are back in our large group meeting, and I hope that you were able to expand a little bit on some of your thoughts and ideas from the previous breakout. So again, I am going to start typing in here. And Anne Marie, I'm going to start with you. If you could just share out from our group.
Sure. I think that, again, one of the sort of themes was really the recognition that related to SRBI, the learning loss, but, you know, kind of compared to who. So really collecting information that helps us say, this is about a child or a group of children and not what we're seeing as a result of everything that's happened in the last year plus. Jennifer, would you say I summarized that accurately? Okay. And then thinking about, we talked about one of the roles of teachers really is to respond to social and emotional needs, but that may be a need for an area of training for staff. So again, in planning and thinking about it, again, that may be an area of need. Nadine, would you say that was a summary of your point about
Yes, thank
okay.
you.
Okay. And then one of the strategies that came up at the end was around surveying staff about what kinds of needs are they seeing within their students. So again, there's a whole building at a building level picture of what the needs are, and that could also inform planning, and also could involve and invest staff in the buy-in in terms of the response that is going to happen. Kristen, does that sound like what you, okay, all right.
Okay. Did anyone else have anything that they would like to share? We're going to be ending our meeting in a few short moments, but one or two other big ideas that came out before we end for today, and anybody can just shout them out or put them into the chat.
We had a quick thought or wondering about the number of students that'll be enrolling at different levels moving forward. So the number of families who maybe didn't avail themselves of special education services after you know, the PPT process was concluded and determined eligible, or the number of families whose children are K eligible but they're holding them an additional year, and the impact of, you know, our on our schools.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm getting it. A number of families holding children back and perhaps
not enrolling.
And not enrolling and not accepting specially designed instruction, right?
And then when those children reappear in our schools, so at the K level, or and how we should be planning for that unknown number of children.
Okay, so thank you everybody for your input today. I'm going to just ask Andrea if she could do a quick update, and then I'll go over some resources that I've gathered for us. Excuse me.
Sure. Well, thank you everybody for coming. Just one really quick, actually two really quick updates. Just want to let you know some things that are going to be coming out from SDE very, very soon. So we are expecting on or around April 12th for the Accelerate Connecticut document to be coming out. So just keep your eyes open for that. Again, we're thinking on or around April 12th. The other thing to keep your eyes open for is there is a recorded presentation that's being prepared collaboratively between OEC and SDE with regard to transition to kindergarten and issues surrounding that, including retention. So there will be a video presentation that'll be asynchronous that you will be able to access. We expect a final-ish draft of it this week, so hopefully in the next 2 weeks that will be out. As always, feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Andrea. And then the resources that I have accumulated are part of the PowerPoint presentation. They will be sent out to you with a survey, but I did want to draw your attention to one of the resources from CASL, and it did include a roadmap. I think maybe 7 schools and their plans and their visions for reopening. So that might be a helpful resource for you as well. And just a reminder that we are going to be meeting with teachers next week. And again, thank you so much for being part of our conversations today. And I hope that this was helpful.